I think the more that we can educate our parents and really inform them about what's happening with their child and with their kids, I think it helps build their capacity to really have those informed discussions with them.
That's where anxiety comes from.
Yes.
That's where depression comes from.
Absolutely.
You're comparing yourself to other people on social media, and you're not getting a lot of what we need with real people.
Right.
That can help you be better people. Welcome, families, to Beyond the Classroom. We're very excited that you joined us here today. Today we have a very special guest speaker. I'm going to let him say his name and introduce himself. And whatever he doesn't say, I'm going to have him say. I'm going to ask him to say it because we don't want you to be humble here. We want you to share everything and all your accomplishments because here in Linwood Unified, we're very excited to share all the amazing people that are here to support our families and all the resources that you guys bring to our community. So let's go ahead and get started with your name and who you are and what you do here.
Well, let me just first thank you for having me on the podcast. Thank you for having me on this channel. I want to thank our students here as well for recording and taking their time out of this week. I know you guys are on winter break. And so to start, my name is Patrick Gittis Rabungo, longest last name in Linwood Unified School District history. If you had a vowel, I got vowels you can buy, right? I am the Assistant Superintendent of Technology and Innovation for the district, and I'm very proud to be in this role and really excited to be on this podcast and really share with you some of the things that we're doing and really learn from you as well as the students who are in this room.
So we are recording in winter session, but this will probably be released sometime in January, February. But before we move on, you were just recognized.
Yes.
For LA County?
Yes, I was recognized for Cabinet Member of the Year for across 80 school districts as the CTO of the Year, Chief Technology Officer of the Year. And so I'm very humbled and honored by the recognition. I think it's really a reflection of just the team that we have here in Linwood Unified School District. And so I'm really proud of just the work and the projects that we've done over the past several years, post-pandemic, during the pandemic. And so I'm very proud of just this team, the staff, everyone who's really done a phenomenal job of making sure that kids have access to technology, to tools, to the internet, to all the systems that we support.
Yeah, and congratulations.
Basis. Thank you.
You joined the many cabinet members that have been recognized.
Yeah.
You know, our superintendent of the year, our business officer of the year last year, and then now you.
Yep.
So, you know, you guys are doing something right. So
I hope so.
You absolutely are. So thank you for being. We wanted to make sure that we brought you in this podcast because the purpose of this podcast is to bring resources to our families.
Right.
And a lot of times parents don't have the time because they work to go to the school sites and participate in all the workshops.
Right.
So sometimes, you know, you have time in your phone, so you're able to hear some information. And today we're here to talk about AI.
Yay!
Yeah, which I know you know everything about that.
I know as much as I can.
Yes.
You and I both agree that I think our students know way much more.
Yes, they do, and it's scary.
It's very scary, but it's also promising at the same time.
Yeah, so you have to keep telling us that because as a parent, we kind of feel a little nervous because it's something we're not used to.
Right.
And you a lot of times train all of us on different things to look out for, and it gets a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about that, internet safety,
absolutely,
social media safety, because we want parents to be involved.
Right.
At the end of the day, I think when we are involved, we just know a little bit more.
I agree. I think the more that we can educate our parents and really inform them about what's happening with their child and with their kids, I think it helps build their capacity to really have those informed discussions with them as well.
Yes. And even if we're scared, we don't have a choice.
We don't.
We have to dive in.
We have to dive in. We have to embrace it. We have to figure out ways we could educate ourselves and empower ourselves so that way we can really connect with our kids.
Yeah, and things are moving really fast.
They're moving way too fast, and it's like just this last week, I know that a lot of different tools are coming out. The AI space is just, it's phenomenal at the same time, but to your point, it's very scary because there are so many tools that are out there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's start with basic definition.
Okay, sure.
Like if you have a family that hasn't even heard of AI,
Yeah.
we're saying AI because we know what it means, but what does AI mean?
So AI means artificial intelligence.
Okay.
And AI is in everything that we do, right? So if you break down the components of AI, it's machine learning, right? So in essence, if you have a mobile phone, if you have a computer, if you're using any type of app that you do on a day-to-day basis, there is some form of AI embedded. And AI looks at data and tries to identify patterns that really help personalize the information or help tailor the information or target that information to customers, parents, students, etc. So prime example of AI is Amazon, right? So like I know that this is the holidays, right? And so Amazon is one of the largest retailers in the world, right? And so they use a lot of AI in their app to really make sure that all the products, all the services, whatever it is that they're trying to market to you is right in front of you, right? I can probably open up my Amazon app right now, right? It'll show me the patterns of what I bought last month and say,
Yes.
hey, did you want to buy that, right?
Yes.
Or it'll make recommendations
Yeah.
that are really like either timely, it'll make recommendations based on even my conversations I've had maybe with my wife or my kids, right? And it will try to really hyper personalize that information.
Is that why things pop up?
That's why things pop up, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, even social media. So
Yeah.
folks who are using, like, again, Facebook, aka Meta, right?
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok, any of these social media tools that our kids are familiar with, all of that has AI embedded. So like for your page, right? For you page, FYP, right? The algorithm, right, is an AI, artificial intelligence driven algorithm, right?
Wow.
Because it really wants to tailor content, right? Videos, whatever it is, right? Short form videos to you, right? And so these phones that we carry, that we bring with us wherever we go,
Everywhere.
right? To connect us to the rest of the world. In many ways, the data that's behind these phones is used to make sure that all of this is personalized to you.
Wow.
Right? So, like, even Yelp recommendations, folks who are looking for food, like patterns of your purchasing, patterns of your behavior, where you buy stuff online, where you buy stuff in person. I'm sure I got a Starbucks notification, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's all AI driven, right?
Wow.
Everything is very much AI driven in this world. I think the next wave of AI is this concept of generative AI, right? And so these terms are very complicated for just folks who may not be familiar.
Yes.
But the difference between AI and generative AI is now these tools can actually generate content, right? So they can produce like writing, it can produce images, it can produce videos
On its own.
right?
Without a person saying.
Without a person saying.
Guiding or.
Yeah, so, I think one of the most popular tools that I know many of our students, even in this room, right, have been using is ChatGPT, right? So ChatGPT is like, it's 2 years old now, but it's been many of our students, some of our adults,
Yes.
right?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Right, are using ChatGPT because it generates content for you, right? So you have to give it a prompt, right? You say, write me a 5-paragraph essay about the rise and fall of Rome, right? Or write me a 100-word paragraph about the Civil War, and it'll produce it for you.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's scary.
Yeah.
But there's also some benefits that I see as well.
Yeah. So let's go into that. So
Sure.
as a school district,
Yeah.
how are we embedding AI into what we do in teaching our students and as they're learning? Like, how do we embrace that in the positive way? Like, that way they're involved in it in a healthy way.
Right. So I think, that whole idea of personalization where, the consumer world is looking at data to personalize, products, retail, whatever it is to you, right? If you think about those concepts around what we do in our school district, where we look at assessments, we look at curriculum, we look at the instruction that we give, We look at the work that students turn into Google Classroom,
Yes.
right? Or they turn into whatever platform that we've offered, for kids and provide for kids.
Yeah.
What that really presents is the opportunity for us to really personalize that learning, right? To really individualize the type of content, curriculum,
Yes.
the instruction, the guidance for every kid in a different way.
Yeah.
So that way, not every student has the same scripted, unit 1, unit 2, unit 3 lesson. Open your book to page 1, answer the questions on page 5, right? It's not like that. It shouldn't be like that, right? It should be like, okay, well, you already mastered this unit, right? Let's skip you to this section, this skill, right?
Yeah.
And so the promise of AI and generative AI is really around making sure that, things are personalized for kids, right? And so I there's a lot of tools in the last 2 years that have emerged, right?
Right.
Over, I think, 300 ed tech applications, educational technology applications that have come out that are really trying to, address personalization, like tutoring, assessments, data, you name it. Folks are trying to come out and really release products that really target kids and their learning.
And that's really important because
Yeah.
these kids are growing up different than we grew up.
Correct.
And we need to stay on
Yeah.
top of that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like when we were growing up
Nope.
and just memorizing and
Yep.
everybody's on the same page.
Yep.
We have a very different generation, and I'm
I-
glad we're participating in
Yeah,
that.
I agree with that. I think that more and more kids are looking for that hyper personalization, and that term hyper personalization is really more of a marketing term, right? And so when you think about phones, you think about devices, you think about experiences, right? Kids and students, right? Students have access to so much information, right? They have access to they learn their information through YouTube, right? Through podcasts that we're recording now, right? Through TikTok, through social media, through platforms, through each other, right? So their world of information, like, they're able to absorb, right? And decipher all of that in some ways, right? But because there's an abundance of information, abundance of data that's coming in at all angles, right? Students and kids and young adults, right? They recognize some of the trends, some of the things that are happening in the space, right? And so I just think that as adults, we just need to be able to help foster that, really, and make sure that again, we talk to kids about the information and the data that they're consuming and the sites that they're visiting, to make sure that they make better choices about the content that they're,
Perfect segue.
Yeah.
Perfect segue to our next topic, which is safety, which is our, AI safety, internet safety, all of that. And as a parent that might not know a lot, what are some basic things that they can do to ensure that their child is safe while they're using all these tools?
I think, so for me, I think there's 3 things that come to my mind. Number 1 is stuff that we already normally do, that we should do, is communicate and talk to your child, right? Ask your child, ask your kid, how their day was, what's happening, what happened at school, what's been going on in their lives. Ask them also what sites they've been visiting, right? Taking a look at their, I think, you got to balance out, right? Building that trust with your child and your kids, right? And really making sure that relationship is grown. The second piece is to really to start using those tools yourself, right? I mean, it's scary, right?
It is.
But, to be able to understand where kids are coming from, right? To understand their trends and understand how they're consuming content. I think it's important for adults to also go through that as well. So understanding, I hope everyone understands YouTube these days, right? Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, there's just so much content, Discord. Many students are on Discord as well, right? So because I'm an IT director here and I oversee all the technology tools, I have to be in many different spaces to make sure that some of our kids are protected in the environments that they're in. So I don't want to disclose what we do.
Right.
But just know that that for every tool that kids access, we also know that they access them as well.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
those are the other things that I think it's.
So we do
important.
have safety features.
We do.
Safety
yes.
measures in
we
place.
Do, right.
Okay.
And then third, so I said number one, making sure that again you talk to your kid. Number two is also making sure that you use the tools.
Yeah.
And number three is educating yourself and really creating that relationship with the school. Right, really leveraging, the school and the professionals that are at school, principals. Yes. I think you have SEL specialists. Leverage Dr. Martinez as well, because we all have kids, right? And so what you're experiencing as parents, we've gone through similar experiences
and are going through
experience. I have a junior in high school. You have kids, senior high school, and so all those experiences we can relate to because we're also dealing with it as well, and we're really trying to make sure that we connect with our kids in meaningful ways too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not perfect with my own kids, right? I tell you that. So like even with my daughter, I mean, I try to talk to her every day. I get home, how's your day, right?
Yeah.
What's going on? And she gives me a snarky response, right? Like, oh, that's okay. Hey, what are you doing here? Why are you home?
Why are you home early?
So I just think that three kind of pronged approach, I think that's where I would recommend for parents to take. Yeah.
So talking about some dangers.
Yes.
What could be some dangers with AI, social media, that parents should be, that way, because some parents might be like, oh, it's not a big deal.
Right.
It's not that dangerous.
Yeah.
But what are some dangers that we've seen?
Yeah.
And not only in Linwood, but all over the United States with AI and social media and any other items that we need to tell parents, like, it's real. There are dangers.
Yeah.
So it's important to do the things that you just said to do to ensure that stuff doesn't happen.
So the first thing that comes to my mind is privacy, right? And so that's the part that really keeps me up at night is if students and our kids and our families are using these tools, right, and providing their personal information into these tools. I think there's a statement or a quote that I often say is that if the product is free, you are the product.
Wow.
Right? So many of these social media companies, they make their money because of the number of users that are using their product for free.
Okay.
Right? So again, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But just know that your data, right, is now being used to sell to companies to then market to you.
Even if they say we're not going to share your data?
Even if they say they're not going to share your data,
they
right?
Probably
so
will
they
share
probably, because again, like, so if you sign up for Instagram, you sign up for all these social media tools, right? They're free, right? But they use that information to sell to advertisers, right? Because now they can say, okay, Dr. Martinez, you're from Southern California, right? You're in this age demographic, right? You're Hispanic Latina, right? And so now I have 3 pieces of information about you, right? And I can target and market like products, whatever it is, services that are really aimed at that specific demographic, right? So in the same way, when kids and students sign up for these services, right, that they may not even know it yet, right? But their data is now being used for advertisers to say, hey, I have a product that I want to release. I want to like create an ad for, right? Where is the best group of population? Where is this segment of population? Where can I target that, right? And so privacy to me is probably the one concern that I have. Here in Linwood Unified School District, privacy is something that we take seriously, right? So that's why we want to make sure that kids aren't accessing information and sites that really allow them to disclose their personal information. The SIS, our student information system that we have on Aries, I know our students check their grades, they check their courses, etc. Like that is specific to only like us, right? Only administrators. So privacy is a major concern for me, and as well, it should be a concern for parents as well. Second, really, besides privacy, is just the biased nature of these tools, right? So generative AI, right, ChatGPT, all these tools, because they're created by humans, right, and the data that they train these tools on is created by humans, then just know that the outputs that are created from these bots, right, are also going to be biased, right? So, like, prime example that I've shared before is if you say, hey, show me a picture, right, or show me a picture of housekeepers, okay? I'm just giving you the scenario, right? If it generates a picture, right, of like of black and brown people, of women, right? That's a stereotype, right? So it's perpetuating biases and stereotypes that a housekeeper is black and brown, is a woman, right? So, like, because it's been trained on society, it's been trained on the data that it sees within the world, which, again, because we're flawed, we're humans, right? It's going to be biased, right? And so show me create a picture of a soccer player, right? So, like, if you think about that, like, you think about how it produces the outputs and the content, just know that you're going to get biased content.
Wow. Which then our kids then get.
And it continues to perpetuate, right? So I think it's important for staff, students, and everyone, and parents especially, is to know that these tools are created by adults. It's going to produce biased output. It's going to produce stereotypical output as well, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you have to really fine tune it. And then I would say the last piece that I think that really keeps me up, besides data protection and making sure that's private and biased, is really around the nefarious uses of AI, right? So we talked about, how AI could be used in really thoughtful ways, right? But we've seen where AI is also used in I guess derogatory ways too, right? So kids can use AI to bully other kids, to generate an email, to pretend they're someone else, to create deep fakes of something else, right? So that's happened across the nation, right? And so those three things, I think, is something that I think we need to do. We have to do a continuous job of making sure that we educate, inform, and making sure that we really make sure that kids understand that the content that they produce, right, has consequences.
Okay, let's talk about that last one.
Yeah.
The things that can be produced with AI and the consequences that go behind that.
Right.
We've seen, I do discipline here district-wide, and we're involved with a lot of things that happen. Oh, thank you. We're involved with a lot of stuff that happens that we see happen nationwide with AI. And I want to be real in this podcast. Yeah. Like, I want to share with parents some of the things that they haven't necessarily happened here. Right. But they've happened. Yes. And I think that's why you guys have done an amazing job with bringing this protection. Yes. So things like this don't happen, but it doesn't mean that it can't happen. Right. So can we share some of that stuff? Like, even if, we're not going to go in detail, but like, what has been some of the stuff that has been done in the other states? And folks who are listening and watching, you can actually watch a 60-minute special that actually aired just this past weekend about some of the deep fake content that is being created for, like, teens. Okay. Right? So a prime example is, I can't remember what state this was, but a photo, right? So, like, kids who share their content online, they put their photos of themselves, right? There are tools out there now, right, that you can download or you can put on your app, and you can take a photo of Dr. Martinez, right? I can use your image, your head, if you will, and then put it on, like, a body of someone else. Another body. A nude photo. A nude body. A nude photo, right? So now there's a picture of me floating around with my face and a nude body. Absolutely. And you probably can't even tell it's not me. No. And then that gets distributed. Yeah. It gets shared. It gets posted, right? And then it goes viral, right? And what people don't realize is when whoever does that, right? The kid, the teen, the adult who creates these deep fakes and puts that and sends that and distributes that, I don't think there's a realization of the harm that can cause that person who has their victim of that on another, like on a naked body. Right. So that part is happening. Yes. Right. And it's getting more and more, it's easier to do. Yes. Right. Like these companies that are coming out, they say
you have to be 18 years older, and they just do a little checkbox, say yes, I am, right? And so because it's so easy, right? Like parents need to really monitor that, right? They need to really see what's happening. They need to be critical consumers. They need to really look at content, like even on Instagram, on any of these social media platforms, like even looking at photos that have been enhanced, looking at photos that of people who you may not even exist, right? Those are the things that I think, our students, our staff, everyone, our parents really need to be cognizant of. They need to be more aware that whatever is being on social media, getting posted, getting published online, second guess it, right? Fact check it, right? Ask someone, call someone, right? And say, Dr. Martinez, I saw a post about this, or I saw a post about something. Is this real? Is this true? And let someone in the district, let someone else help figure that out, because oftentimes, like some of the content that's put on could be fake, it could be AI generated, and we see that even with this last election, so like there's just a combination of stuff, misinformation, disinformation. There's just so much content that's getting created online that the more and more, like, we have to be authentic. We need to be create. I really appreciate being on this podcast, by the way, because it really brings an authentic voice to it. But at the same time, I do think that someone can take this podcast, right, and probably create deep fakes of us, right, and change it and change the content, right? And so, like, I think more and more kids or adults just need that training, need that specialization, and need to hold these companies accountable as well to awareness, what's out there, what's happening.
So we're going to leave the accountability to you, to the companies, to help
regulation. We need
regulation
regulation
and advocate. For us as parents, again, it goes back to being involved in your child's life.
Absolutely.
Look, people are going to hate me for saying this, but if your child is not 16, they should not have a phone. I would make that a law if I could. I know a lot of parents want to be in communication with their child.
Right.
Did you have a phone when you were 10?
I had no.
Did you have a phone when you were 15?
No.
Did you have a phone when you were 20? Maybe? No.
No.
I wasn't probably till what, 99? And that was if you maybe got a phone.
Yeah.
And we survived.
Pagers.
We had a pager, right?
Yeah.
And
we had to go payphone.
And you would get the codes and but we survived.
Right.
Every single classroom has a phone.
Right.
So if there's an emergency.
Right.
Every single classroom has a phone. The school has a phone.
Yeah.
Yes, the schools sometimes shut down phones. I'll be the first to admit.
Yep.
For those parents that are saying, yeah, but your phones sometimes...
Absolutely.
They do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the safety that goes behind a student not having a phone if they're not mature enough.
Right.
Outweighs so much danger that goes into this.
I agree with you. I can tell you that these apps, okay, many of the apps, gaming apps, social media apps, they have been created to create addiction.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, if you see kids or adults, even some adults, right, they look at their phone, they constantly look at their phone because they're looking for that notification, they're looking for that little red dot, that says...
And it's all a brain chemical.
It's very much brain-based theory. It's very much addictive behavior because... Again, what engages you, right, is something that is going to be triggered by this. And the more you use your app, right, because you're the product again, right, the more that, hey, we got a lot of...
You're going to be self-fulfilled.
Yes.
But
phones are very engaging. They're very addictive.
And you can use them for a lot of great things.
You can.
But I think that you have to be mature.
Absolutely.
To get to that.
Absolutely.
So parents, maturity, make sure your kids are mature if you are giving them that tool.
Yeah.
Because it could be a good tool, but...
Agree. Yep. Strike that balance. Always maintain that balance. I agree with you that, like, kids don't even pick up the phone anymore. Like, they want the text message, right?
Yeah.
Like, I like to call.
Yes.
Maybe
we
I'm
do like to talk.
I like to call.
Talk on the phone.
Yeah,
I do.
I'll call my daughter and I'll say, hey, how was your day again? Yeah, I'll call her.
And she's like, text me, Dad.
Yeah.
Text me, Dad.
My son's the same way.
Yeah.
Like
it's a different generation.
I won't respond to text, and then like he'll call me, right, and say, "Hey, Dad, can you pick up lunch or can you pick up dinner?" Yes. Right? I'm like,
if food is related, they'll probably call you.
Yeah, exactly.
But anything else, it's text me.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think
unless
you're mature enough, I don't think one of these tools,
Yeah.
these phones is going to be beneficial.
No.
A flip phone is good.
A flip phone to call them and whatnot. But I want to go back to the part where we talked about the dangers
Yes.
of it and kids having access to the internet and stuff like that.
Right.
So going back to the generative
AI.
AI, they get a picture of me and put it. I want to go back to that example.
Yes.
So two things that I want to bring awareness to.
Yes.
One, the dangers of the victim,
Yep.
like how the victim is going to feel. But then two, the consequences of the aggressor, because a lot of people that have done that have been caught.
Yeah.
And people have gone to jail for that. People
Absolutely.
think like, oh no, we're in a state where we could do it where we won't get caught.
Right.
But what people don't realize, and we want to make everyone know, like there are tools in place where we are going to identify, especially if we have access to, like here in the district,
Right.
to identify who sent it.
Correct.
Who sent it, how it was passed around, was it airdropped, like different things like that.
Yes.
So there's consequences. So if someone listening, please make your child know, because sometimes kids don't realize the dangers that they get themselves into
Correct.
when they participate
Yeah.
in these types of activities.
I agree with you. I think the concept around, again, it's another term, right? It's your digital footprint.
Your digital footprint.
Right. And so what many students don't realize is that what they're creating now and what they're publishing and what they're posting doesn't go away.
It follows
It
us.
follows you. So
Yeah.
when kids apply for college, apply for a job, apply for any, like a career, whatever it is,
Yeah.
people are going to scour the
Wow.
internet and look at everything that you've posted.
Yes.
Right? Look at your digital presence.
Yeah.
Right? Of sites you may have gone to where like, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
The content you've created, right? And some kids and some adults think that they can mask that,
Yeah.
but there's ways to connect,
Yeah.
users and usernames,
Yeah.
right? To profiles, right? And so that digital footprint becomes so much, it's becomes so important
Yeah.
when you're preparing for a job, a career, you're
Yeah.
preparing for college, because that in essence is what employers look like, what jobs look for as well. And so
To know who you are.
to know who you are, and
Yeah.
again, we talk about, we want to make sure that kids are aware of
Yes.
of the consequences, to your
Yes.
point,
Yes.
right? And coming up with lame usernames, right? Like don't do that.
Yeah.
I know kids come up with like all
Yeah.
these, they come up with multiple profiles, just so
Yeah.
you know. They'll
Yeah.
create multiple profiles. Well, that's another tip too,
Yeah.
to make sure that parents understand that kids will come up with, they'll have an Instagram account
For you.
and then they'll have one
Yeah.
for their friends.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that
Yeah,
too. I think parents
yeah.
need to be aware that kids
Yeah.
they're savvy,
Yeah.
right? They're so savvy, so they'll create multiple accounts. They'll be
Yeah.
able to communicate with different groups of people, right?
Yeah.
They have different communication channels, right? So
That means they have a lot of time.
and I think they have too much time.
They
on
have
their
too
hands.
much time.
But I think there's so many tools that they can
Yeah.
really use. Like, and again, it's nothing new, because communication is embedded in what we do. We
Yes.
we want to
As a
communicate.
human.
Yeah,
It's
we
a
want
part of
the
our need.
yeah,
Yeah.
we want the socialization,
Yeah.
right? And so these tools and technology tools just enhance it.
Yeah.
They enable
And
it.
COVID didn't help.
No, it didn't. Right?
It elevated some of that.
But it doesn't. I think part of the problem too is that when you have these tools, you're behind a laptop, you're behind an iPhone, you're behind an Android, whatever it is, you're behind a phone, and so your personality, your tone, your approach, your body
yeah.
language doesn't ever get communicated in that message,
No.
right? And so that's where things get lost in translation. That's
Absolutely. You
where-
know that 90% of our discipline issues that happen
Yeah,
start on social media?
absolutely.
People are braver.
Yep.
People say things that they wouldn't say in person.
Yep.
And a lot of problems stem out of social media.
And and I'll tell you this: kids and adults, some adults love to read comments
Wow.
because they want to see those discussions. They want to laugh. They want to make fun and poke fun. And I don't know why
Yeah.
our society is like that, but
Yeah.
like we get enamored by
Yeah.
it's like this concept of what enrages you engages you.
Wow.
Right? I don't know if you've heard that before, but
Yeah.
like things like that really it's like a way of triggering folks to say, oh, I want you to engage. I'm going to get you angry about this. Like, I'm going to publish this. I'm going to post this. And so that way you can respond and then contribute to this kind of.
And that goes to my second point of, if my nude picture is going around, is the victim. Like, people don't realize, we're in that example, it's not really a victim because you're participating. But if you're immature, you don't realize that you're participating. But what people don't realize is that's where anxiety comes from. That's where depression comes from.
Absolutely.
You're comparing yourself to other people on social media, and you're not getting a lot of what we need with real people. That can help you be better people.
There's a great book by Jonathan Haidt. He wrote a book called The Anxious Generation, right? And this is this is where we get this ban cell phones until you're 16, right? Because these phones and these tools, these systems, these platforms are designed to create sadness, anxiety, depression, this whole idea of the fear of missing out, right? I think that becomes problematic. The algorithm, the AI that's in these tools, right, that show you content of, let's say, of being thin, right? And so kids and young adults and young teens, right, because they don't have the brain, it hasn't been fully developed yet. If they're consuming the content that shows them, like models and stuff that they want to reach, or like experiences or food or whatever it is, right? Like, it just creates this world that is so foreign for them that, you know what I mean? So like, it creates more stress, anxiety, depression amongst our teens. And so limiting the use of social media, limiting the use of cell phones is something that as schools, we know that we got to ban that. We got to make sure that we protect our kids at all times. And so that is something that parents need to really be made aware of, right? That the content on social media, right? Is not all, rainbows and unicorns.
No, it's fake.
It's
probably fake.
It's fake. It creates, this, again, fear of missing out, but kids consume all of that.
They do.
They consume because they get entertained by it.
Yeah, and we need to protect our kids from themselves.
Right.
That's just the truth.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so before
we
end
boring?
No, this is why you're here. This is fun stuff.
Yeah.
And important stuff.
Correct.
And we want to give parents tools to make sure that if they don't know, like, is there somewhere where they can go to get more information?
Yeah. So the site that I love is a site called Common Sense Media.
Okay.
Right. So Common Sense Media has resources for parents. It has resources for students as well as teachers, but they actually provide a lot of guidance on all of these different tools that are out there. They have reviews of some of our ed tech apps that we use here as a school district as well. So it really, it's all inclusive. It has information about information literacy, digital literacy. There's a ton of content on Common Sense Media, and I'm very proud to say that our schools have been recognized for being a common sense school, right? And so digital literacy has been embedded,
it has,
in our organization, and so we continue to try and making sure that we catch up with what's happening in the space, because it's moving so fast. Generative AI is here to stay. It's getting more and more sophisticated, right? This podcast probably could have been generated through generative AI.
Yes, it would have.
Right?
Yeah.
So kids are using it on a day-to-day basis. I think, making sure that we educate our kids, educate our students, educate our adults on really how to make the most of these tools is the part, but also being aware of the perils of some of these tools as well, right?
Yes.
What I'm looking forward to, and what I hope is going to happen, is that this whole idea of relationships, right? I think you have always been about relationships, right? I think that's at the core of what we do here in public education in our schools. Having a caring adult, having kids who you can interact with, that you can relate to. I think by far that's, to me, what I hope these tools would help elevate. Right? Is that, hey, put the phone away, right? Don't give me your ChatGPT assignment. Right?
Talk to me.
That's exactly right.
Talk to me. Look at me.
Yes.
Let's go back to that.
Yes. Yeah. So I appreciate like this format of the
Yeah.
podcast because it's a genuine conversation. It's not like, hey, AI generated, like,
Yeah,
hey, here's
yeah.
an FAQ. I spit it out and no one's gonna read it.
Yeah,
right?
no, yeah,
So
it needs to be real.
I think I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want our parents to know we're real,
Yeah.
and we are real.
Yeah, we are.
We're parents, we're educators,
Absolutely.
and we're in it together.
Yeah.
So as we finish today's podcast,
That was it?
Well, yes, that was it. Parents work; they have to work, they have
Yeah.
to go to school, they have to do, take care of their kids and feed them. But is there any last thought that you want to share? So we're gonna add the resource to the end of this video.
Okay.
The Common Sense, so
Yeah.
that way they know directly they can go there.
Yeah.
I also always encourage parents that if they want more information, go to their school sites.
Yes.
We have case managers, community school case managers, licensed clinical social workers, counselors, SEL specialists, and if they're concerned, like let's say they get nervous after watching this video and they're like, where do I get more information? Come to the school site. Go to your son or daughter's school site and just say, look, I saw this podcast and I want more information. How do I get more information? A lot of school sites have workshops that bring awareness. I know you've done a lot of great things with bringing workshops to our school sites. So we always provide that. We always encourage the parents to do that. Is there any last thoughts that you want to share with our viewers today?
Just again, talk to your kids, talk to your students, talk to your families, connect with kids, build those relationships. As much as I love technology, I actually love people more.
Yeah.
Right. So just making sure that we connect with people in really meaningful ways. I think that's what I hope these tools can really help enhance.
Yeah.
Right. It can make people better.
Yes.
It can really create and foster that communication and relationship building.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate being here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Thank you
having
for
me.
joining us. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and look for next week's episode on, I'm not sure what it is, but it'll be something
Yay.
interesting to help our families. So thank you again for joining us today. Thank you. Yeah, that's good.